This is the lesson for 3-7. What we're doing today is that we are solving systems of equations with rearranging. This is basically taking the 3-5 lesson and 3-6 lessons and combining them together. So you already know how to graph one equation, graph the other equation, and see where they cross. You also learned in yesterday's lesson how to rearrange for y equals. This is taking those two lessons and combining them into one problem. So when we take a look at the directions, it says solve each system by first rearranging for y equals and then graphing the lines. So we want to first rearrange the equations for y equals. We want to get that y all by itself. Remember, you want it in that y equals mx plus b form. You want it to look like y equals 2x plus 1, for example. You want it in that form where you have the y all by itself, then you have your x, then you have your plus or minus. Remember that the number in front of your x is your slope. Remember that when you go to graph your line, you need to write that as a fraction. So 2 would really be 2 over 1. That really means up to over 1. If it was a -2, then that would mean down to over 1. Your plus or minus whatever is your y-intercept. Remember, y-intercepts are always written 0, comma, and then the number inside parentheses. Your plus 1 here would make it a 1 as that number after the comma. Remember, this is your y-intercept. Your y-intercept always starts out somewhere on that y-axis. For example, if we were graphing 0, comma 1, we'd put a dot right here at 1. That first point, when you go to graph your lines, has to be somewhere on the y-axis. Then we would follow the slope twice. So we would go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, connect your dots, and put your arrows on the ends of your line and label your line. But that's just an example of how to graph lines. Today, what we have to do first is we have to rearrange the equations for y equals, just like yesterday. So when we take a look at this first one, we want to try and get this y equals all by itself. To get this y all by itself, we need to get rid of the plus 4x. We get rid of the negative 4x by doing plus 4x and plus 4x. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side. Those 4x's cancel out. Bring down your y, bring down your equal sign. Now, we don't want to do -3 plus 4x. We can't add together an x and a plain old number. But what we want to do is we want to switch around the order so that it's in this y equals mx plus b form. So -3 plus 4x is going to be 4x minus 3. That's our rearranged equation. So the slope of our line is the number in front of our x, which is the 4, which is really 4 over 1. That really means up 4 over 1. Our y-intercept is 0, comma, inside parentheses, whatever our plus or minus is. So it's 0, comma, -3. So when I go to graph my line, remember that your first point always has to be somewhere on that y-axis. So 0, -3 is right here. Oops, I don't want to use purple. So 0, -3 is right here. Starting there, we want to go up 4 over 1. So up 4 over 1, put a dot. Up 4 over 1, put a dot. Remember, when you're graphing your lines, they should always form a straight line, not a V shape or anything like that. Connect your dots, put your arrows on your lines, and you should label your line as well. Now, for our second one, we need to get this y all by itself. To get that y all by itself, I need to do -2x and -2x. Because remember, I need it in that y equals mx plus b form. I can't do a plain number minus 2x. I can't do 3 minus 2x. It doesn't work that way. But I can switch around the order. So that becomes negative 2x plus 3. Again, just like yesterday, that's a plus 3 because that's a positive 3 there. It was a negative or minus 3 last time because it was a negative 3. So now I have my equation in the correct form. My slope is my negative 2, but when I write it, I'm going to write it as a fraction because slope is always written as a fraction. So this is negative 2 over 1. That really means down 2 over 1. My y-intercept is always written 0, comma, whatever my plus or minus is. So it's 0, comma, positive 3. That first point is always somewhere on the y-axis, somewhere on this green line. So 0, comma 3 is right here. Starting from there, I need to go down 2 over 1, put a dot, down 2 over 1, put a dot. Remember, we always go over to the right. We never go over to the left, always over to the right. Connect our dots, put our arrows, and we should label our line as well. So now what we need to come up with is our solution. Our solution is where the two lines cross. Where do the two lines cross? The two lines cross right here at this purple dot. Remember, when you go to do your intersection point here where the two lines cross, your solution, your first number inside your parentheses is how many you go over. Your second number is how many you go up or down. So where is this purple dot? Well, starting in the middle at 0, 0, right there, all right, we have to go over to 1, up to 1. So our solution is 1, comma 1. So we rearranged the equations for y equals. We found our slopes and our y-intercepts. We graphed our two lines and saw where they crossed. Take a look at another one. So trying to get the 2y all by itself. I need to get rid of that 3x by doing minus 3x and minus 3x. When you do that, those 3x's are going to cancel out. Bring down your 2y. Bring down your equal sign, 8 minus 3x. We can't do 8 minus 3x. That is not 5x. It's not the way that it works. You can't do a plain number minus an x. But we can switch around the order. So 8 minus 3x is really negative 3x plus 8 when we switch around the order. It's a plus 8 because that's a positive 8. Now we need to divide. That says 2 times y. I need to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Remember, you have to divide each and every term by that number. These 2's cancel out, so I have y equals. Now, just like yesterday, I can leave this as a fraction. Negative 3 over 2. That doesn't divide evenly, so I can just leave it as a fraction because that's my slope anyway, which is written as a fraction. 8 divided by 2, however, divides evenly. That is positive 4. So there is my rearranged equation. Y equals negative 3 over 2, x plus 4. My slope is my number in front of my x. So my slope is negative 3 over 2. That really means down 3 over 2. My y-intercept is 0, comma 4. When I go to graph it, remember that first dot always has to be somewhere on the y-axis. So 0, comma 4 is right here. Following my slope, down 3 over 2. Down 3 over 2. Remember, we always go over to the right. Down 3 over 2. Connect my dots. Put my arrows on my ends and label my line. For my second equation, again, I need to rearrange it for y equals. So I'm going to do minus x and minus x. So I have negative y equals negative x plus 1 when I switch around the order. Now, we did an example just like this. Remember that there's really a negative 1 in front of that y. So I need to divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. Remember, you have to divide each and every term by that number. Now these negative ones will just cancel out, so I have my y all by itself. Be careful here. There's really a negative 1 right there in front of the x, so negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1x. 1 divided by negative 1 at the end is negative 1, so I'm going to write minus 1. My slope is my number in front of my x. There's a 1 in front of the x, so that's really written as a fraction, 1 over 1, which is up 1 and over 1. My y-intercept is 0, comma, negative 1. So 0, comma, negative 1, that first point is always on my y-axis. And now starting from there, I need to follow my slope. Up 1 over 1, put a dot. Up 1 over 1, put a dot. Connect the dots. Put your arrows on the ends of your lines and label your line. Where do these two lines cross? Well, these two lines cross right here at that purple dot. Where is that? Remember, when you go to do your solution, your first number is how many you go over. Your second number is how many you go up or down. So starting in the middle, over to 2, up to 1. So 2, comma 1 would be your solution because that's where they cross. Take a look at another one. 2y minus 6x equals negative 4. To get that 2y all by itself, I need to do plus 6x and plus 6x. Bring down my 2y. Those 6x's canceled out. I want to switch around my order here. Negative 4 plus 6x is really 6x minus 4. I need to get this y all by itself. So this really says 2 times y. The opposite of times is divide. So I need to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Those 2's cancel out. So I really have y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3x. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So I have the equation y equals 3x minus 2. My slope is my number in front of your x. I want to write that as a fraction though. So I'm going to write 3 over 1. Anytime it's a whole number like that, whether it is positive or a negative integer, we want to put it over 1. So that really means up 3 over 1. And my y-intercept is going to be 0, comma, negative 2. That first dot that you have to graph is always somewhere on the y-axis. So 0, negative 2. 0, negative 2 is right there. Starting from there, I need to go up 3 over 1, put a dot. Up 3 over 1, put a dot. Connect my dots to form my line. Put my arrows on the end of my line and label my line. For the second equation, I want to try and get this 2y all by itself. To get that 2y all by itself, I need to do minus 6x and minus 6x. So 2y equals, now be careful, remember we can't do 8 minus 6x. It doesn't work that way. We just have to switch around the order. So negative 6x plus 8. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So I have y equals negative 3x plus 4. Negative 3 is my slope, so negative 3 over 1. That really means down 3 over 1. And my y-intercept is 0, comma 4. So 0, comma 4 is right here. That first dot is always on that y-axis. Down 3 over 1 to the right. We always go over to the right. Down 3 over 1. We have this picture. Put my arrows on the ends of my line and label my line. Where do these two lines cross? These two lines cross right here at this purple point. That purple point is over to 1, up to 1. So 1, comma 1 is my solution. Let's take a look at one more of these. If you wanted to pause the video and try this one on your own first, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you could just watch. 5x plus 5y equals 10. I want to get that 5y all by itself. So I'm going to do minus 5x and minus 5x. So I have 5y equals negative 5x plus 10 when I switch around the order. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. So I have y equals negative 1x plus 2. Negative 1 as my slope. That is really negative 1 over 1. That really means down 1 over 1. And I'm starting off at my y-intercept of 0, comma 2. When we go to graph it, that first point always has to be somewhere on that y-axis. So 0, comma 2 is right there. I need to follow my slope of down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Connect my dots, put my arrows on the ends of my line, and label my line. For the second one, I want to try and get the 2y all by itself. So to get rid of that negative x, I'm going to do plus x and plus x. So those x's cancel out. So I have 2y equals x minus 2. Now be very, very, very careful here. Those 2's cancel out, just like we've talked about a couple times now. What number is really in front of that x? There's really a 1 in front of that x. So because there's a 1 in front of it, that's really the fraction 1/2 x. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So when we go to do our slope is 1/2. That really means up 1 over 2. And we're starting off at 0, comma negative 1. So we're starting off at 0, negative 1. That first point always has to be somewhere on the y-axis. Starting from there, we're going up 1 over 2. So up 1 over 2, put a dot. Up 1 over 2, put a dot. Connect our dots, put our arrows, and you should label your line. Where do these two lines cross? These two lines cross right here. Now remember, be careful. For your solution, the first number is how many we go over. Second number is how many we go up or down. So starting here at 0, 0, we're starting there. We're going over to 2, up to 0. So 2, 0 is our solution. So you need to rearrange your equations to get your y equals all by itself. Find your slope, find your y-intercept, graph your two lines, and see where they cross.